Somebody has power over you and you're being oppressed because the way that they're administering power you do not like.
You have a oppressor versus oppression mindset. That isn't my mindset. I view the world as competitor versus competition. Life is a competition. The reason why we were enslaved is because we wasn't winning the competition. We couldn't compete with the people in our own land when we were in Africa as a people. So therefore, if we were enslaved by other black people, then you mean to tell me if some other people from other nations come over, they're not going to sell us too? Of course they're going to sell us. They're going to be like, oh, they got only spears and little knives, but we got guns? You don't think it's competition? Yeah, they're going to compete. Oh, these people can't compete, so we're going to take over. That's how the world works. When you apply for a job, you're competing. When you're talking to that chick down the street, you're competing. Everything is competition. And that's how I view life. These people with the victim mindset, they view it as a victim, not a victor mindset. They think about, oh, I'm oppressed, my feelings, my circumstances, my it's people in other countries that don't got clean water. There are people that will slice their kids' foot off to come here. We live in America. We should be grateful and happy. We over here complaining as black people. This is the problem that I have.
You know what we do here. Got to dismantle this real quick. So get ready with me. We're going to take this to the dissection table. It shouldn't be long.
You have a oppressor versus oppression mindset. That isn't my mindset. I view the world as competitor versus competition.
You are allowed to view the world any way you want. That is fine. Just like trans people are allowed to view the world however they want to view it, and you know their reality however they want to view it. But when we get to actual reality, the mindset you have doesn't determine whether oppression exists or not. It has no bearing on whether oppression exists or not. Zero bearing. What you think and how you try to frame the world does not stop oppression from being oppression. You could look at slavery like a gym class, and that's your delusion, right? But that doesn't make slavery a gym class. So when we get past that, he looks at life as a competition. So let's get to that.
Life is a competition. The reason why we were enslaved is because we wasn't winning the competition. We couldn't compete with the people in our own land when we were in Africa as a people. So therefore, if we were enslaved by other black people, then you mean to tell me if some other people from other nations come over, they're not going to sell us too? Of course they're going to sell us. They're going to be like, oh, they got only spears and little knives, but we got guns? You don't think it's competition? Yeah, they're going to compete. Oh, these people can't compete, so we're going to take over. That's how the world works.
Competition is the way that you choose to frame it, but this is conquest. This is war in some cases. This is conflict. And to just label it as competition undermines what's actually going on, and it waters it down. Things like basketball and football and arm wrestling, those are competitions. People are coming together, two parties are coming together, and they are agreeing to play a game and compete against each other. That's what it is. Now, when we go past that and you look at something like, okay, you got people competing for girls, competing for jobs, et cetera, et cetera. What's going on with those dynamics? There is an object of desire that most people want, right? As far as a job or a girl or whatever the case may be. And when it comes to the pursuit of that position, person, or object of desire, in most of those cases, you're indirectly competing, meaning you don't see your opponent, but you are dealing with the obstacles with the person or the object or whatever the case may be, and you have to compete to get that position, person, or whatever the case may be. And when we get past all of that light shit, taking people's land is not competition. The Vikings coming into a village, raping the women, kidnapping the women, taking the kids, sometimes killing the kids and the women, killing all the men, leaving no men alive. That is not competition. That is the equivalent. If we just going back to competition and basketball being competition, that is like, this is a perfect example. You walking around a school, right? You're in a school, you're walking around a school, you're walking into a door. The purpose that you're there for is to learn and to basically get a diploma so that you can further your education. Socialize and things like that as well. Somebody comes and they jump, right? They jump while you're walking through the door, smack the top of the door, ram into you while they're jumping, and they do the dunk. All of y'all should know what that is. They dunk on you at the door, right? That's not competition. That is not a game. You didn't agree to play this game. That's bullying. And even if you want to say that's not bullying, you could say it's clowning. You could say whatever, you could label it however you want to label it, right? The thing is, that's not competition. Let me give you another example very quickly. So boom, you're sitting down in school, eating your lunch. Somebody comes and takes your whole lunch tray, takes all your food, and now you can't eat for the rest of the day. Now you can't eat. They done took your whole lunch. That is not competition. That is bullying. What keeps that from being competition? If we look at both situations, the first one, as far as you getting dunked on, however we decide to look at that, hostile, non-hostile, or whatever the case may be, you guys didn't agree to play a game. You guys didn't agree to compete. There is no competing when it comes to that. If you go and you try and dunk on him, that's you getting revenge. That's not you playing a game and competing and trying to win. That's not what that is. There's no competitive aspect to that. Now, if you get your lunch took, that's a whole different thing as well. You are entitled to your lunch. You are not competing to eat lunch. When a person takes your lunch from you, that is not a win for them. That is not a W. That is exploitation. They see that you are weak and they are exploiting the fact that you are weak to take your lunch, and that's it. There is nothing competitive about that scenario. If you go because he thinks you weak, let's say he underestimated you, you go and you fight to get your lunch back. That is not competition. That is conflict. Now, I went and got the definition of competition. You could pause and read that because I'm not reading all that, but there is one that supports what he is talking about. We're going to go over that very quickly. It's actually an ecology definition, which is the study of environments and, organisms and things of that nature, but it says biology on here. This is the Cambridge Dictionary. Competition is also a situation in which the various organisms living in a same area or in the same area try to compete for a limited supply of food, water, space, etc. Now you got to understand this as far as ecology. This was created in the 1800s, about 1866, long after, white people have conquered most of the globe and shit like that, right? And the origin of the word is in the 17th century as far as competition and things of that nature. So I want to make it clear that this is not something that has been defined for thousands of years. And, the Greek and Roman empires were running off, the competition definition or anything. No, this is relatively new when we talk about the history of humans, which spans over thousands of years as far as recorded history. Now, I could go deep, but I feel I've went deep enough, so we're just going to get straight to it. I feel like this is dangerous rhetoric, and the reason it is dangerous is because you could easily use this to justify any atrocities that have happened throughout history. And again, it undermines not only the oppression, but the genocide under the guise of competition. It also puts things in a frame as far as these atrocities to where it makes them seem as if they were necessary. Slavery, as far as chattel slavery in the U.S. and the way that they tortured black people, as far as, foundational black Americans, there was no necessity to that. When you look at the Holocaust, there was no necessity to that. And even if you want to say it's competition under, that whole definition that was mentioned, when people are doing things like this, they are already in positions of power and they are not doing things to try and get more land or, gain of people's territory or anything like that, their resources, which colonization in some cases they do that, with the, what do you call it? The blood diamonds and things of that nature. When it comes to blacks, as far as Caucasians, Europeans, what they did that for is to enslave black people. On top of that, they rape black people, they dehumanize black people, they kill black people. And when you look at the Holocaust, that is just senseless killing. That is just senseless killing. That is a genocide fueled by hatred. And when you look at both of the situations as far as the Holocaust and slavery, these are not fights. These are not fights. These are ambushes. These are coordinated surprise attacks. These are, let's get these unarmed people with our guns, and rally them up and put them in a confined place and then just do whatever we want with them. Now, I can't see the competing in that, but even if you see the competing in that, you definitely have to acknowledge, you cannot get away without not acknowledging how fucking atrocious that is, how that should not be happening, how devilish that is, especially when you look at once these people got control of these people, how far they went. And that's another reason it is dangerous, because once these people have control, right, you're talking, oh, they won the competition. So that gives them the right to just rape our women. That gives them the right to torture us. It's very simple. The issue is this pretty much takes away the accountability and it justifies a lot of these heinous actions. It doesn't point out that these things are absolutely fucking wrong. And I understand the world is an ugly place and humanity is very ugly and a lot of ugly things happen. But that type of mindset that he has is not productive for actual society. When we talk about competing in the other ways that I mentioned, that's cool. Like Honda versus Mitsubishi or whatever the fucking case may be, that's cool. But when we get to talking about violence and conquest and things of that nature, is competition instead of oppression. And you got stupid motherfuckers comparing colonizers to fucking Michael Jordan and Kobe, talking this is the Michael Jordan and Kobe mindset, like fucking idiots. Where do you think that would take us? I'm not going to sit here and lie. If you run a nation, you absolutely need to be vigilant and you have to understand the nation or the nature of man, especially white man, just keeping it real. But Cooley doesn't run a nation. Cooley is a civilian with this mindset, and this is how he looks at other people, like fucking the people who were capturing slaves and stuff like that, who didn't run a nation either. So if I have this mindset and I'm relentless and I'm trying to get resources by any means, this would justify me becoming, a loan shark, right? This would justify me going and exploiting all my local businesses, like, organized crime and shit like that, right? This would justify, robbing random innocent people because they're competition. This is competition. Getting money is the competition. Getting resources is the competition. So going out and just becoming a modern day Viking, right? Or a pirate, to where I just do what I want and use my violence to get what I want in all cases. That's competition, right? I'm winning against all those weak ass motherfuckers that I'm taking from, right? Now, when the police get involved, I gotta air quote compete with the police, compete. But if we look at just that mindset, that would justify a lot of crime. That would justify a lot of crime. We are in poverty areas and shit is competition. Like if somebody else got a job and they going to work and they doing the honest thing, if I go and take from them, it's justified because it's competition. It's competition. And this is the thing, when we talk about this weird shit as far as like, oh yeah, we got slaves, we won a competition, they're kicking our ass and stuff. Yo, is Jeffrey Dahmer, was he winning a competition when he was kidnapping those gay black men and killing them and torturing them and stuff like that? Because I mean, it's similar to the Holocaust. Was he winning a competition? When you got dudes who get people in a basement and lock them up and have them as sex slaves, or they winning a competition because it's in alignment with slavery. I mean, they were enslaving our women and raping them and stuff like that. So is that in alignment with competition? Because a lot of that stuff has nothing to do with food, water, or space, as far as a lot of atrocities that have happened, especially when we mention slavery. Like it's really beyond free labor when you get to torturing people and whipping them and creating different contraptions and all types of shit, all the inhumane stuff they were doing that really seemed like they were doing it for amusement. That's past competition. So yeah, as far as labeling atrocities as competition and people just losing competitions, I think that's disingenuous. Even if we're going by the definition, even if it goes and we say, oh, it applies to, I think that is destructive rhetoric that undermines how bad it was, that it is absolutely wrong, that it should not be done, and that it's more exploitation than competition. Now, I didn't even get to oppression, but I'm not trying to have a 50-minute video. So I just say when we get to oppression as far as competition and things like that, us being free and, the CIA doing COINTELPRO, fucking, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, and just all of this random oppression that they hit us with through the whole Jim Crow era all the way to today and all of this shit, segregation. Like, what is the necessity of that as far as a competition? There's no necessity in that oppression. None. That's how come it doesn't exist anymore as far as certain things, as far as like fucking segregation and stuff like that. It comes from a place of hatred. Now, I'm going to be honest. When you look at the mindset of somebody like J. Edgar Hoover, who looked at black unity as a tremendous threat and stuff like that, that is just in alignment with this competition mentality, and it highlights that Europeans have this mentality. Caucasian Europeans, Americans, whatever you want to put it, they have this mentality to where we have to keep their foot on our necks because we don't want them to gain power, et cetera, et cetera. That's how they view things. As far as the Black Panthers coming to, I mean, you could even say that about, the KKK and stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. But when you look at when black people actually get together, we do not have that mindset. We do not have a mindset to where we're trying to dominate or overpower white people. We're trying to get our own shit together because they keep trying to keep their foot on our necks. So that's what the fuck is going on as far as oppression. Let's continue though. But just to wrap that up, they view us as a threat. Like certain white people in power as far as, institutions, they view us as a threat, even though we aren't a threat. And that speaks to them having this colonial mindset mentality, whatever you want to call it, as far as competition.
When you apply for a job, you're competing. When you're talking to that chick down the street, you competing. Everything is competition. And that's how I view life.
Everybody agrees with that. Nobody's going to disagree with that. But this is the thing, man, is robbing old ladies competition. Is scamming people out of their whole life savings a competition. You remember the knockout game? The knockout game where kids was just running up or guys was just running up. I can't remember if it was kids, teenagers or whatever. Just running up to people, knocking them the fuck out. Is that a competition? Is that a competition? Knowing your ops is at a party or a function or a block party, whatever the case may be, rolling through and shooting up the whole party. Is that a competition? Hitting innocent people, killing innocent people. Is that a competition? Because, I mean, if we're going to look at enslaving other humans is, okay, they won the competition. Where does it stop? Where does it stop? Why would that be competition, but somebody having a sex slave in their basement not be competition? How would enslaving people be competition, but going to some wholesome Christian man's small business and exploiting him for a lot of the money that he makes each month? How would that not be considered competition? In all of the situations that I named, the violent or exploitive person, they're not abusing or oppressing anybody. They're winning because it's a competition. There are winners and losers. If you get shot, minding your own business, you lost. You're a loser. Fuck it. They wanted your shoes and they had to get them by any means. He's a winner. The person who shot you for your shoes is a winner because it's competition.
These people with the victim mindset, they view it as a victim, not a victor mindset. They think about, oh, I'm oppressed, my feelings, my circumstances, it's people in other countries that don't got clean water. There are people that will slice their kid's foot off to come here. We live in America. We should be grateful and happy. We over here complaining as black people. This is the problem that I have.
Now, this is the question that I have. Is he a tether? That's a word you've never heard me use on the channel, but it's a question that is very necessary, especially when we get to him, talking about the word nigga with Marquette. Shout out to Marquette for the way he held it down in that clip. But Also, him mentioning slavery in this, light right here, it would be good to know if he's a tether or not. Anton Daniels is not a tether, and he has a lot of anti-black talking points and stuff like that. So it is what it is. And I fuck with Cooley's content to some degree, but y'all know that. But this is the thing. We'll begin to end. I personally don't have a air quote victim mindset. I don't look at the way that I look at things as a victim mindset. Because when we talk about personal, it depends on the situation that I am in. And I'm going to put my best foot forward every time. And I'm not going to blame how my life is going on a personal level on the powers that be. I just got to step up to the plate and do what I got to do, et cetera, et cetera. Like, these are the cards that you were dealt. Play your hand. But this is the thing about that. So you got to understand, I am moving through life like you got to do what you got to do. If a situation comes and I so happen to be a victim, for example, the story that I told y'all in the complexities of being a black man video, where I got pulled over for nothing, everything was right, and he pulled me over and tried to say I was speeding, but I wasn't. And the only reason it could have been is because I'm black. That's it, because I know a lot of white people, they don't get fucked with like that. I'm getting pulled over for nothing because I'm black and you're trying to get tickets off. I'm going to acknowledge that I am a victim in that situation because he has the authority and he is abusing his authority in that situation through an institution, a position he was given by an institution. Shit, I've never committed a crime in my life. I got fucked with by police in middle school one time. Doing nothing. Me and my friends was just walking from school. We not fucking with nobody's shit or nothing like that. The dude just clearly a racist. He stopped and he fucking started harassing us. I can't remember what he said. We were victims in that situation because we are being harassed as kids by law enforcement for nothing. Harvard did that study and stuff like that as far as, applicants with black last names, black sounding last names and things of that nature. And the results, when they did two different tests, they did one in I forget the years, like 2023. So they did like a recent one, right? But before that, it was like 2012. And the percentages got worse, actually, as far as black applicants with black names that got callbacks. It was much lower than the white names that applied for the job. So studies have been done on this. So when we talk about oppression and we talk about people being victims, it's circumstantial when people are victims. If we look at a circumstance, we can point to specific circumstances where people are victims. When I say that, that doesn't mean you move through the world as a victim like, oh man, I can't do this because I'm black and da-da-da-da. I mean, you should in some cases. You shouldn't be going to a sundown town and acting a fucking ass, shit like that. Yeah, you should have that level of discernment. But in most of your everyday life, you shouldn't do that. So we get that out the way as far as like the whole victim mentality and shit like that. There are times where we are actually victims. And again, his whole mindset is just oppression doesn't exist and it doesn't factor into anything and nobody's doing anything bad. We're just losing the competition and he's fucking Kobe and he's competing and all this shit, right? Bunch of bullshit. When we get past that and we go to this whole we're in America bullshit. America is great. I'm not going to sit here and say America is horrible, man. I wouldn't fucking go anywhere else, outside of like probably an Asian country or something like, and I got to be papered up. I'm not going to lie. A lot of the passport bros and stuff like that, the thing that make being in these fucking third world countries so lit for them is that they are American, that they come from here and they got a job that's remote. But this is the point. Just because there's a lot of awesome shit going on here. I love the country. I love to be here. Most of the days are great. We definitely have privileges as Americans and stuff like that. Just that doesn't negate a lot of the oppression that actually happens to black people in this country on a daily basis. That doesn't negate that I have to move a certain way in certain situations and have to maintain the awareness that I am black, which is not a victim mindset. But let me give you another circumstance for people who don't get it. Perfect example. There are privileges that white people have to where there's a Saturday interview and they say you could come dress however. If I come dressed however, knowing the way things work, knowing how I could be perceived, I could be putting myself at a disadvantage over white people who get favor. So I have to come way better. I have to perform way better and come way harder than these white dudes. I got to come in a suit and tie on a Saturday for an interview when everybody else is coming in sweatpants and fucking Hoobastank t-shirts and shit like that. When all the white people is coming in, I got to come in the suit. I got to show them I am way more serious than these other motherfuckers and I'm going to be way better at the job. And these are things, because somebody will probably say, oh, man, you don't know that. You don't know, man. See, you just move it through. Like, listen, these are things that have been proven over and over again. And I gave you a study earlier. About how black people are discriminated on the jobs and stuff like that. So it's not some imaginary shit. It actually happens. So the thing is, I have to move in that situation, putting my best foot forward, knowing that. But outside of that, I'm not just living my life like, oh, man, I can't do anything because a white man is holding me down. And, oh, I can't start a business. I could never be successful. Oh, shit, I'm a broke motherfucker because of the white man. That's not how we moving. But it's very simple. Two things could be true at the same time. White supremacy exists within this country. There are a lot of great things about this country. And regardless what race you are, this is one of the best countries to be in on the planet. Now, the thing about that, even when you say that, you can't undermine what the fuck it took to get here for us to be able to have this experience. All the lives that have been sacrificed, all the marching, et cetera, et cetera. So there has been a lot to get us to this point. And even then, I mention to y'all all the time recent stuff that happened. I might have to update my Rolodex and stuff like that as far as, recent racial events, because I keep spewing the two same studies out and shit like that. But listen, that's what it is, man. That's what it is. So he's trying to use the fact that America is great to some extent for black people to try and act like black people have nothing to worry about or nothing happens to us and things of that nature. And it's all in our mind. It's all the mindset, which brings me back to one of the first things that I mentioned, man. You could choose to think of things however you want to think of things. That doesn't take the fact away that oppression is real and it happens in our society to this day, man. That's it for today, man. Let me know your thoughts. I'm gone.